YouTube, it's that movie guy 777 here again to bring you all another horror film review. Today's horror film is from Brian De Palma, one of the greatest film directors of all time. And this is one of his more earlier movies and was independent rather than his more big production movies that I'd later move on to in his career. The movie came out in 1973, and that movie I'll be reviewing for today is Brian De Palma's Sisters. Sisters begins on a television show called Peeping Tom, where two TV contestants, Danielle, played by Margot Kidder in one of her more earlier roles, and another man named Philip, winning a free dinner to a bar called the African Club. After they go to the bar together and they start to get to know each other, they head over to her place, and we notice there is suspicious behavior going on outside of the apartment, with Danielle's ex-husband watching them, and he's been following them ever since they're in the bar. After they get that problem out of the way, they finally relax. However, we notice there's a large scar on the hip of Danielle's body, and there's a lot more to this girl than we seem to have perceived when we first saw her. And then we are led into more madness in Brian De Palma's Sisters. For Sisters being Brian De Palma's first film, it is clearly seen that Brian De Palma was definitely influenced by the works of Alfred Hitchcock. And the ideas that he uses from Hitchcock come from Rear Window, Psycho, and Vertigo, which all deal with the themes of voyeurism and obsession, and it is definitely prevalent throughout Sisters, and it is definitely one of the main themes of Sisters throughout the film. However, Brian De Palma brings us his own original charm to Sisters, which involves the wonderful split-screen sequences that just heighten the tension at its highest, and he also uses POV shots, which also may be one of his inspirations from Michael Powell's wonderful slasher film, Peeping Tom, which is the name of the television show that the characters are on in the beginning of the film. So Brian De Palma definitely shows his love for other movies in Sisters. Brian De Palma got the idea of Sisters from real-life Siamese twins in Russia that he read about, and Brian De Palma really does delve deep into this overall theme in the movie, which is this trauma of being deformed, and it just adds this really imaginative charm of horror in the movie. And that's another theme that Hitchcock uses in his films, which is having this trauma or phobia over something. And Sisters really does have the horror and suspension of a great Hitchcock film. Since Sisters was a rather low-budget film and was released in the 70s, it definitely does have the qualities of an exploitation B-movie, but it is truly much more than that, and I think is a great American horror film. And Bernard Herrmann's score is also brilliant, and it just adds on to that style of an exploitation B-movie and the thriller-esque suspension master style of Brian De Palma, and it truly is just a wonderful combination of just styles of film. If you haven't looked into Brian De Palma's films yet, this is definitely a great one to start off on. Well, it's not my favorite. My two most favorite are Carrie and Blowout. This is definitely, I think, a great film and truly one of the most memorable horror films I've seen, and I highly recommend it during that season of October. And yeah, that was my review of Brian De Palma's Sisters, and stay tuned for more movie reviews.